Hi everyone. This really is a video that a lot of people have been asking me for, as far as the woman or the girlfriend that destroyed my life. I know it sounds so, I don't want to say dramatic. What's the word I'm looking for, babe? It's so...
You're on your own.
I'm just going to stick with dramatic. Melodramatic? I don't know. I might as well just start this video over again. It's not going well already. Anyway, her name was Kelly. Kelly. And what's funny is she's at a... I'm near Chicago now, and I decided I was going to look into some places around here. Her name popped up. She's right next to me. And this story that I'm about to tell you, this took place 11 years ago in a little town called Greenport in Long Island, New York. And once upon a time, I had a best friend. When I used to do movies in Hollywood and everything as a cameraman there, I loved it. Great people. Kodak Theater was fun. Anyway, I'm with my buddy Ryan. He's an editor, right? There used to be a company called Jam Pictures and Sound, and he was an editor for them. He was a fantastic guy. And his sister was starting a restaurant somewhere with a guy named Joseph. And this guy, the restaurant's not around anymore. It's called Vine Wine. And a horrible person. He was a horrible person. And at this time, I was a very shy, I was just a very shy person. And I never stood up for myself at all. It was very hard for me to speak to people. And I was just very timid, very scared. Never, ever stood up for myself. Ever. So, anyway, his sister is helping this guy open a restaurant. I fly out there and I met her. Oh my gosh. The woman of my dreams. But seriously, you guys know what I'm talking about. You ever get that, like, when you see a woman and, like, you don't know how to react? Like, your heart rate goes up and, like, you get an instant erection and you're just hoping that no one sees it? Yeah. It was like that. It was special. Anyway, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this, where there's one woman there and she goes and she just barely touches you. It's like she barely touches your hairs just because she gets close enough to, like, grab your suitcase, which she grabbed with me, and you go through a hot flash. That's what I went through when I met this woman. So, anyway, she was my boss, and she was hot. And she was 32 years old, and I was 22 or 23 years old. And in order for me to keep my job, she made me have sex with her. We didn't even have to role play. I lived that dream. Anyway, I'll get past that. I love you, darling.
I love you too, my dear.
Anyways, this woman treated me horribly. Horribly. When I got there, she told me, she said, look, look, I know I told you we're going to pay you $12.50 an hour, but since you're here and I know there's no way for you to leave and, like, you're stuck here, we're just going to pay you $3 an hour because, to be honest with you, there's nothing you can do about it. That's what she told me. So, anyway, they cut it down again to the point where I got paid like $320 like a week or every 2 weeks. But they paid me under 10% of what they told me they were going to pay me. And she was in charge of all that. So they had 3 other chefs, real chefs. I wasn't a chef. I wasn't a cook. I worked at Wiener Schnitzel. Wiener Schnitzel, a hot dog stand in California, right? That's the most I got in cooking before I worked at this restaurant, okay? So, I'm working at a hot dog stand, then I work at the airport for 5 years, and then I work here. I haven't even cooked a hot dog in 5 years, over 5 years. I'm not joking. So, I get 3 days of training with their chef, okay? And he loved me to death. He thought I was awesome. We were working 16 to 18 hours a day, and we lived above the restaurant. It was crazy. So I was working 16 to 18 hours a day, 6 days a week. And then Sunday, my day off, I worked all day ordering things and getting things ready for the rest of the week. He quit! He quit! I was the help. I was the dishwasher. And before I knew it, within 3 days, I'm the main chef. Fortunately, I did it. I'm not even joking. I was able to manage the kitchen and cook everything just from his training. He was such a good trainer. Not that I was good. He was that much of a good trainer. I ran the whole freaking restaurant. Lucky me, right? Congratulations. So, I'm working this restaurant, and I just love the manager to death. And her and I, we got something going on, and it was difficult, man. I never ate or drank through the whole shift either. I lost so much weight. I weighed 92 pounds, and I was 5'9". I'm not joking. That was my weight. By the time I got back to California, I was 85 pounds. Just because being malnourished or anything. Anyway, so back to the story about this woman, Kelly Fidrick. We're having sex and everything, right? And it turned out that she thought she was a god. And she studied black witchcraft in Satanism. And she literally thought that she was a reincarnated god. And here I am, I'm looking at this bitch like, what? I thought she was joking, but since thought she was a goddess, she would walk around the apartment topless. And it's like, well, I guess that's a plus, So, anyway, I'm just thinking, she's pretty hot, and I'm having fun, and she's my boss. I don't want to get fired. I don't have money for a flight home. Just agree with her. Okay, can't agree with her, what I say. That's nice. It's one of those things. What do you do when someone does that? They think they're a god. They think that they're, and they're serious. And you laugh like, this bitch is serious. So I'm doing that, and I'm running 3 different positions at the time. I'm a dishwasher, and I'm a manager, and I'm the chef. It was crazy. Anyway, what this woman did is she was able to get my pay so low that they had me personally running the whole restaurant, everything by myself, teaching their bartenders how to mix drinks, how to do it, because I was a certified bartender. It's the reason they brought me on. It was supposed to be why they brought me on. So I was running their bar, teaching them how to do stuff, all this junk. They had 3 bars. It was crazy. Anyway, she went through all my things. She stole all my stuff. She stole all my bartending stuff, and she stole all my recipes. I was just thinking, this is when we were on good terms, too. Then she kicked me out of the restaurant because I got pissed off at her, and I finally said, fuck you. I reached my point with her when it was just ridiculous. I can't remember what it was about, but I blew up. She kicked me out of the apartment, which in New York, they're legally allowed to do. So I'm stuck, and I'm living underneath the train track, okay? And I'm doing whatever I can. Fortunately, there was a guy there. He was a great guy, and this guy owned a resort. He let me stay there for a while, and I was going to work for him and everything, but I don't want to get too far off that. This woman one day, I'm hanging out at this restaurant, family restaurant, which had a nice little bar inside called The Blue, and the cops show up. The cops show up, they see me, they grab me, I go outside, right, they grab me, they smack a cigarette out of my mouth, I don't know what to do, and he goes, BAM! Starts slamming my head into the hood of the cop car. I had no idea what was going on. Now, here's the problem with this. There is a gang out there, they're called the Bloods, who are from California, from LBC. I happen to be from the same area, and they knew me. They also happen to know some mobsters who ran the place, and all the customers there loved me. So when the cops mess with me, 2 units come up. Before you know it, the movie theater across the street, the restaurant I'm in, and another restaurant, all these people come out. We're talking about 80 people come out, yelling at the cops, holding things in their hands like they're going to throw it at the cops. There's 3 units there. There were 2 units. The 3rd unit pulls up. And this guy looks at me like, oh my God, who are you? You know, like, who did I mess with? It felt pretty good. I gotta be honest with you. It did. So they're all out there, they're coming on the cops, and other people are opening up the doors asking what's going on. Seeing the cop holding me from my neck, they see blood coming down my forehead, and people are like, hey, what the F are you doing to him? That's my homie. And remember, like, I'm just this little nice guy and everything, and I'm just like, oh my God, are we all gonna die? Like, I've never seen this stuff. It was the first time I've seen tension in my life, you know what I mean? Like, something like this. I was terrified, because I knew I was in mob territory. I knew the mob ran the police, but I also knew that the mob loved me because I was a nice guy and was always just, you know, peaceful, minding my own business, and I knew those guys, they knew me. So these cops grab me, they take me to Kelly, to this place, Vine Wine, right, in Greenport, and she's there waiting for me, and she says, that's the guy. And I'm thinking, Kelly? What is this bitch doing? Yeah, that's the guy. He's been breaking into the apartment and watching me sleep at night, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, are you out of your mind? So the cops, when they frisked me, they found 3 knives. Why? I've always liked knives. When I see a pretty knife, I gotta buy it. It's that simple. I worked at the airport forever. You always need a knife, and when they break, you need a backup knife. I've always been like that. So anyway, these cops, they see the way I react with her, and I finally like, Kelly, you're my boss for this long? You steal my things, you kick me out of there, I'm living underneath the train track, you're paying me under 10% what you're supposed to pay me, now you call the cops, and you're lying to the police, and the cop tells me, hey, calm down. I was like, shut up! You lied to the police, and I start telling her about, you're using your beauty to manipulate the police, you use your beauty to do, and right here, these cops are looking at each other, and they look at her, and they look at me, and that's when they realize they've been duped by this bitch. She called them up to manipulate them, to turn them against a guy who dumped her. And I'll never forget it. When she kicked me out, she looked at me and she said, are you dumping me? I don't know what to do. I've never been dumped before. I was like, well, no, you said that we're not together, we're not a thing, we're just sleeping together. She's like, that's what women say when they like a guy. You're gonna regret this. You're gonna regret this. You're gonna regret the day you ever turn against Kelly Fidrick. And I'm gonna make your life hell. And she's spoken this low voice. And I was just in there, I was like, holy shit! She's not a god, she's a demon! She was sent here to kill us all! I mean, this bitch was terrifying. Her eyes turned to fire, and her hair to snakes. But then when she did that, she looked worse. But, this bitch was crazy. So, anyway, that's when I left, and then she kicked me out when I was leaving. That's what happened. I finally remember. The cops look at her, and they're like, you're lying. I can't believe this. They looked at me, he's like, are you alright, man? Let me see your forehead. Oh, I'm so sorry. Gives me my knives back and everything, and they gave her a warning. And I told them too, this woman has struck me 3 times. She's done this. She's stolen from me. Oh, I made her life hell. Finally, some people out there who I knew were able to speak to her and her boss and persuade them into paying for a plane ticket for me back home, and they were very persuasive, and they listened immediately. So that was very nice of those people. Very nice of them. And I got home, and that was fantastic, and when I got home, some things happened. And she was too afraid, and her name was smeared across town. And she told me when we were speaking on the phone, she said, I can't go anywhere because of you, Justin. She said, I went to get my hair cut, and they knew who I was, and they started asking me questions about you and what I did to you and the people I slept with and the drugs I was dealing. And she used to brag about the drugs she was dealing all the time and how cool she was and how many people. And she laughed about a boyfriend she cheated with, and the guy she cheated on with ended up dying the next day. And she laughed at it, saying, I'm glad I got to fuck him before he died. This woman was out of her mind. And she was into weird stuff. And now she's teaching yoga in Chicago. And oh, it's so funny. But the thing is because of her, I was no longer afraid of anything. Because I knew how bad life could get. And then my grandmother died when I was out there on my mom's side, and I loved her very much. And I went through so much pain, I missed my grandmother's funeral. And I knew after that, if I could handle that, I could handle anything. I could do anything. And I came back to California, or not came back, I went back to California. And I decided, I'm going to do something with my life. And I was watching that movie Armageddon, I thought, I always wanted to drill for oil. I'm going to get a job drilling for oil. My own family laughed at me, saying I would never get that job. I had a job in under 48 hours in the oil fields. And I became one of the best workers that they had, even though I was that small, because I was determined. And I wrote over 24 regulations for the biggest oil company in the world. And it all has to do with that bitch. Because of the way she screwed me over, and because of the way she lied, and all that stuff, I was able to understand that I can make something of myself. If a woman who lies on her resumes and manipulates people can make $8,000 a month without knowing what she's doing, and be able to manage a restaurant without knowing how to manage, and ruin restaurants and make that much money, I thought, imagine what I could do, knowing that I'm a good person and I work hard. And it got to the point where I made more money than she did. You know, and I realized at that point, you don't have to be educated. You don't have to have a degree in order to make money. What you have to do is you have to apply yourself. And because of that moment, I've never feared really anything again, because I've experienced the worst life has to offer. And she is the worst person who ruined my life. But because she did that, I've had the greatest life. I've written legislation that's now gone through the assembly. And I'm writing legislation for Congress right now, and they're taking it pretty seriously, you know. And I've trained so many people, and I've made, yeah, it's amazing what I've accomplished. So when you deal with people like you're a horrible person and a horrible ex, you know what I mean? People who just destroy and they just brag about hurting people, and they like to see people suffer. You just break away from them. Break away from that poison and just make something of yourself. I mean, I found out not recently, it's been about a year ago, that bitch has breast cancer. And she decided she's going to try and cash in and try and get money from a GoFundMe page because she had breast cancer, or has it. She's trying to make people pity her and cash in on the money, even though she already has the money. And I look at that, I'm thinking, you got what you deserve. I hate cancer. I think it's terrible. But for some people, like an evil woman like her, I couldn't care less. And it sounds evil, but you know what? You have people like Stalins and Hitlers, and you have people who like to see people suffer and take and steal. They hate children. They hate animals. You're not going to get any sympathy from me. I'm looking forward to the day when you're no longer here making this world a worse place. We're losing people every day who make this world a better place. We can afford to lose people who make it a horrible place to be. And that's the story for two of you people who keep asking me. That's the story about the woman who destroyed my life. And that's how I was able to get over it. And I just learned to accomplish things from it. When you see how far a con artist can make it in life, it really makes you realize what you can do without having to con people, because you're so much more capable. And that's all. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. I know it's kind of boring and everything, to be honest with you, but that's what happened. And that was back in 2003 or 2004 in Greenport, New York. Wow. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. God bless.